So, circa 2009-ish, I moved to a place in Alabama that is on the Florida-Alabama border, and it's a really tiny little town, and it's called Florella, Alabama, and it's in the Panhandle area on the border of Florida and Alabama, like I said, and I moved there from East Tennessee to move in with my ex-husband, who was an Army Ranger at the time. And there's actually a base that is stationed down by Crestview, Florida, which is about 45 minutes from Florella, Alabama. Actually, it's a little bit further down. It's called Eglin Air Force Base, and they have several branches of military that are stationed in that area. It's a very big Air Force base. It's historical even. So it's a place that's full of like panthers and pumas and black bears, and like other than that, it's just wide open space because it's such a huge training facility. So we used to see weird things in the sky a lot. But you could tell the difference between formations and flyovers with helicopters and other types of aircraft. And I had at least 3 different experiences with strange aircraft in that way, so much that I actually did contact MUFON about one, and they reminded me that Eglin was there, and I said, I understand that, but there's, my husband's military, and I've had lots of military family, and I can tell the difference between different aircraft. And, of course, that area of Florida, there's been weird things that are seen down there all the time. In the Gulf area, it happens constantly. So, that's something I'll be touching on. So like I said, I have at least 3 stories that took place there. One that took place with a friend of mine named Ash, and one that took place with my ex, and one that took place by myself. But I wanted today to actually talk about something totally different related to Florella. Now, my cousin down there went with my brother to one of the old houses that is considered to be haunted, but there are many properties that are old, and the house that I happened to live in was one of them. It was built in the early 1900s. It had original French doors made by the Lockhart lumber mill, which is the same lumber mill that stamped the Ritz-Carlton wood that went on their wood floors for the dance there, for the ballroom there. So it was yellow pine, and they were renowned for it. In fact, Lockhart's a really cool place. They had their own little economy because of this logging town for a long time. They even had their own currency, which is an interesting thing to know, that y'all might be interested in looking into. I actually had I can't even think of the word that I'm thinking of right now. My reception for my wedding, I actually had at a little park in Lockhart. In any case, we moved into this place in Florella, into this old house, and it was a pretty big sized house. It was, been there for a while, and parts of it, if I had the money to restore it, it would have been such a beautiful home, and I really had dreams and hopes for that, but that did not happen. In any case, I moved into this house with my boyfriend, and it was me and my daughter at first. Well, then later, my brother and my cousin came to stay with us for a while. And my ex did not tell me before we moved into the house that the house was, haunted. But evidently there was a ghost of a little boy, approximately 5 to 7 years of age. And they believed that he might have drowned, and that was where he lived, and for some reason he imprinted on the house. And he would open doors, like the French doors would open randomly by themselves, and it wouldn't be a draft of air from the door opening. It would just, everything would be sealed up, and all of a sudden you'd hear the squeak of the door handle turning, and the door would open like a crack, or sometimes just swing wide open. And then if you walked over there to go change it, you would see that there were wet little footprints on the floor. And they usually followed across the dining area towards the kitchen, towards the back of the house where the back door was. And you could follow them all the way out, and they would disappear at the door. So I don't really know the whole truth behind the story that happened with this child, but I had a feeling that possibly maybe, he maybe drowned in the house, because the footsteps go from the French door across the dining area out the back door in front of where the bathroom was, and there'd been a clawfoot tub there and everything. It was really old. Again, something I loved about that house. But I wasn't the only one that had this experience. There were different times. I'm sorry if you guys hear scratching in the background. My cat's getting into things. Black cat has to do what black cat does. Artemis Binks! Kitty, kitty, kitty! I might get him to come say hi. Kitty, kitty! Now everything got quiet, of course. In any case, my brother also saw this ghost on different occasions, and the doors and cabinets opening at different times. And we finally decided to ask my ex-husband, what's the deal with this house? And he's all, well, did you guys have experiences? And I said, yeah, we've seen this and that. And we described what we heard and saw. And he just kind of laughed and blew it off. And he goes, I've lived here since I was a kid. It was a family house at that time. And his father actually had bought the house after they had lost their home in a fire a little while before that. And they just barely managed to get out. So it was their replacement house that they bought after his first childhood boy home. And I think he was maybe like 10 years old when that happened. And, by then he was in his early 20s. So he had been living there for a while and grown up there and planted a tree there and everything. And he just told us, he said, we have had this little boy ghost ever since we moved in. We think that he came with the house, and he doesn't cause any problems except for he might spook you here and there. He's kind of like a poltergeist and a trickster, but other than that, you could just be like, hey, little boy, stop, and slam the door, and he'll run off, and he'll disappear till the next time he decides to come and be mischievous again. And that was pretty much the truth. I lived in that house for about 5 years or so, and that's exactly how it went down, and all of us had an experience like that a couple of times, and other people that came and stayed with us had similar experiences, and we truly believe that was one of the super active paranormal hauntings that we actually experienced. That one was very active, more than just like when we lived in Spring Hill. There were a few incidences, and that's another going back to Tennessee story where some things kind of spooked us and everything, but there was not nearly as much activity as that Alabama house had. And honestly, it wasn't a bad feeling though. Like, I didn't go in there feeling scared, and when the ghost came around, it wasn't scary, other than it might, like I said, spook you. Like, you might be startled by getting the door slammed and seeing it open and hearing the door turn and things like that. But other than that, it wasn't like it did anything to be a malevolent force or anything like that. So I, of course, got sage and things like that, and I would bring that into the house to keep activity down. And when my cousin that had come from out of state came, she brought crystals and wanted to go scrying and do all these other things, which she and my brother did do at another property away from where we lived, which was a couple of blocks away, which is definitely super haunted. And I guess it scared my brother pretty good that he took off running back for the house and was like, I'm good on this. I don't need to go ghost hunting anymore. I don't need to know. And she's, on her way back. And of course, like I said, it was only a few blocks away, so it wasn't like he just like dusted her, but like he was like, nah, I'm gone. And she, of course, finished doing what she was doing and followed after him like right then. But there is something about the magic in those bayou swamps, and there was definitely bayou swamps. It's such a beautiful place to see wild alligators and all these things that you see on TV, and it's like being in the real heart of the jungle. Lake Jackson is there, which is one of the oldest natural lakes in that part of the country, and it's just rich with history, and so much has happened there. So I really enjoyed living there, even with having had a a roommate that was a ghost, so to speak. But in either case, that's one of my Florella, Alabama stories. If you're looking for a beautiful place to visit and you might be interested in haunts or old history, it's definitely a cool place. The manor that is considered haunted there is the Hughes Mansion. Check it out sometime.